Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to episode 297 of the Jays from the Couch radio podcast, brought to you by jaysfromthecouch.com. Hello, friends. Hello, Blue Jays fans. Welcome back. We've been on a bit of a hiatus. We'll tell you about that. It's not a big deal, but we'll mention it just because we should. We've been away for so long. But welcome to the episode 297 of the Jays from the Couch radio podcast. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it, whether you're tuning in on our live stream on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, or you're listening after the fact on Apple or Google or Stitcher or anywhere else you find a podcast. Somehow you all manage to find us every single week, and we are forever grateful. I'm your host, as always, Shaun Doyle. You can follow me on Twitter at Doyle JFtC. We've got a great episode for you. 297 is an episode that is going to be one of my favorites. It is something near and dear to my heart, and of course, millions of others around the world. We're going to talk about, we're going to sit down and actually chat with Sherry and Alex of the ALS Double play, and we'll get their, we'll get their input as far as Major League Baseball coming up here. June 2nd is Lou Gehrig Day, and we'll talk to them about the work they do here in Canada, and a lot more. We'll maybe even throw in some Blue Jays stuff, since that's what we're supposed to do here. A couple of Blue Jays fans waiting to talk some baseball with us, and I'm very excited. Of course, I wouldn't be able to do this by myself. I'm not that brave. So to help me out, Karen Suter, host of Sunny Side of the Dome, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Karen, good evening.
Good evening, Shaun.
You're feeling better, I assume?
Yeah, I'm a lot better. I have a lingering cough. It just won't go away. But
yeah, the both of us, we were hit hard, and it's not like we got it from each other. Something happened, and we both got really sick, and we're on the shelf for a little bit, but we're back, and we're happy to be back. We're going to talk about the ALS Double play, because June 2nd will be Major League Baseball's Lou Gehrig Day, of course. Lou Gehrig, some people may know the disease named after him, Lou Gehrig's disease, of course, ALS. But Karen and I will be joined by Sherry and Alex to discuss their efforts in fighting this monster, this terrible disease. And of course, ALS and baseball have had a long, intimate relationship. And of course, Jays from the Couch is also doing our part to raise funds and awareness here in Canada. So we'll discuss the ALS Double play and, of course, the Toronto Blue Jays with Sherry and Alex. Before we get there, though, I would be not doing my job properly if I didn't mention this. Our ALS campaign, if you go to the sidebar of our website, you will find a link where you can directly make a tax deductible, not cash deductible. That doesn't even make sense. A tax deductible donation to the ALS Society of Canada. And I set a goal of $2,500, and I think we're well over halfway there. And so I encourage everybody to go over there to make a charitable donation. We'd really appreciate it. And of course, if you're into getting something for your money, we have a merchandise shop set up at Redbubble. Just search Jays from the Couch at Redbubble, and we've got t-shirts and hats and mugs and all of this other stuff, and 100% all of the profits go to the ALS Society of Canada. So please consider that, helping us out there. Okay, Karen, I've rambled on enough. If you're ready to go, I'm going to bring in our guests now. I'm incredibly excited. First of all, Sherry is the executive director of the ALS Double play, and here she is now. Sherry, thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me and Alex on today.
Absolutely. I'm very excited as well. And of course, Alex, excuse me, Alex is the treasurer of the ALS Double play, and apparently the biggest Blue Jays fan on staff. Yeah. So let's bring her in here as well. Alex, good evening to you.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me on the show. We're super excited to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm very, very pumped to be talking about this with both of you. And so I guess, Sherry, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay. The obvious question first, maybe just give us an introduction to yourself and whatever you feel comfortable about sharing with regard to your connection to ALS.
Sure. So I started ALS Double play after my brother became sick with ALS. So Chris was 32 years old when he was diagnosed. He was an entrepreneur. He was a photographer and videographer. He had his own business. He played every sport. We grew up both loving the Blue Jays and, watching the games at Exhibition Stadium on the bleachers, sitting down on our hands and looking at the grid lines. Yeah, it was, the Blue Jays were definitely part of our youth. And so the more that I learned about ALS, as Christopher moved on through the disease, the more I realized I wanted to do something. I knew nothing about the disease before my brother became sick. I had heard of Lou Gehrig, but I didn't know the disease. I didn't understand what it did to people. And so as my brother progressed through the disease, and as I met people, I actually met the lead researcher for ALS at the University of Toronto. And she said something to me that I'll never forget. Like, she barely knew me. We were just chatting, and she said, "You're going to do something for this disease." And 6 months later, I had like this revelation, and I told my brother, I'm just going to start my own charity. Like, clueless, had no idea what it took. I think when I told Alex, she thought I was crazy too. I left what I was doing. I went to work for a small foundation, a small hospital foundation, to learn how to run a charity. I mean, I had been around fundraising my whole life. My dad was into helping others and taught my brother and I how. But running a charity is a whole different thing. And so I continue to learn, as we talked about a little bit earlier. I have a whole new set of skills, but the whole thing about ALS Double play is that I wanted to be another voice in the community. And the only two things I knew how to do was what we were going to focus on. So we focus on raising awareness and funding research, because with a disease like ALS, as much as we know, we don't know. And we really need a cure or effective treatment like yesterday, as you know, Shaun. So, so I started this new life. I started the charity. And in 2016, we had our very first walk. And proud to say my brother was able to attend, but it was the one and only walk he was able to attend. But it was such an amazing morning. Like, all the people that came out to support us, to support him, to support the cause, it was just incredible.
Yeah, and I think when there's a couple of things that you mentioned there with regard to, first of all, the kind of understanding the disease itself, and I think that one thing that I find fascinating is that we hear a lot of other illnesses, cancer and whatnot. But I think that ALS is something that people don't talk much about.
That's right.
Until you hear about it. I mention often, I'll say, my father-in-law passed away, and he was a big part of my wife and I have been together since I was 17. So he's been a huge part of my life. Right. So, anyway, but then it's, oh, well, I know. And then it's kind of, it's like a popcorn effect after that. Right. But it's something that's, as far as awareness goes, it's kind of, I don't think there's enough, I guess, awareness out there for the research and the even just the support for people, who are suffering from it. Right.
Exactly.
So I'm super happy, and congratulations, by the way. Like, that's a huge step for you. And Alex, I'm going to turn it over to you now, and kind of the same thing. Maybe just give us a little bit about yourself and your role with ALS Double play.
Sure. So we were chatting earlier before we came on, and Sherry and I met through work in 2007, and we became very good friends. We bonded over our love of the Blue Jays, and it kind of went from there. In fact, I think the first game that Sherry and I went to together, her brother Chris was at that game as well. And that was the first time I met him. So when she told me one day, like, Kristen and I have been talking and we want to start a charity. And then a little bit later on, she said, will you join us? I want you on the board. And of course, what am I going to say? Of course, yes. And I didn't know a lot about the disease. I had a friend from back in England whose mom passed away when he was a teenager from the disease. And that was about all I knew about it until Christopher was diagnosed, and then we did a lot of learning very quickly, especially once we started the charity. And it's interesting because it's like you say, until you really have that awareness, you don't really hear anything about it. But once you mention it to people know. They know people who have died of the disease. They have friends, they have family members, and I think one of the things that we learned was because this disease is so insidious and can take people away so very quickly. There aren't as many people living with this disease as there would be other diseases because it simply takes them so quickly. So it's not that it's not prevalent, it's just because of the life expectancy. I mean, I think the stat is 80% of people will pass from the disease within 2 to 5 years of diagnosis. So it works quickly and it's devastating. And I've seen the impacts that it has on families. I've seen the impact that it had on Sherry and her family, and it's just terrifying to stand there and watch and feel like you can't do anything about it. You can't do anything to stop it. So having an opportunity to be part of ALS Double Play and feeling like we're actually actively doing what we can to find a cure, to find a treatment, it's so worthwhile. And I'm so happy. I can't believe it'll be nearly 8 years now.
I know, it's so crazy.
But it's just gotten bigger and stronger, and our circle has grown, and we want it to continue to grow. And we've met so many amazing people when we've been throwing these events and working with the research folks at the University of Toronto has been wonderful. And one of the things that we do with the money that we raise is we fund a research fellowship at the university.
So actually, that was going to be my next question. You're very good at this. Thank you. And that was going to be my next question. So with regard to, I guess, what ALS Double Play does, one of the things is sponsoring a research. Maybe I'll stop talking and just maybe ask you guys to explain that a little bit, because I think that's one thing that, when you say, we're donating. So for example, our ALS campaign, we're donating money to the ALS Society of Canada, and it's going toward research, but you guys are like kind of taking that one step further. And I was going to use the next level hashtag, but I'll skip that for now. But you're actually sponsoring somebody. So I would love to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. I think when I was learning about, raising funds and donating them wherever, I wanted to know specifically and exactly where that money was going, because, we work really hard to raise that money, and we ask people to give their hard-earned money to us, right? So I want to be sure where it's going. And so we have a fellowship with the University of Toronto. We are currently on our third. So we fund a postdoctoral ALS researcher for 3 years at a time. So we are currently on our third scientist. And so it's been really great, because one of the things about research with any disease, not just ALS, is that it's really difficult for them to get funding to do their research. This way, we know specifically that they will have funding for 3 years to complete any of the research that they are doing. And what's really cool about the research center at the University of Toronto is that it's all neurodegenerative diseases together. So they have like dementia, ALS, Alzheimer's together in one lab, and that means the easy sharing of information. So for if someone finds something about Alzheimer's, then they can sort of cross it off for ALS, or if they find something for ALS, they can sort of cross it off for another neuro disease. But it allows for easy sharing, which is awesome.
Right. And something has just happened here. Alex. She may have lost her internet there.
She had they just lost their power.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, the ability to, and I think this is something that it feels to me, and maybe I'm, kind of biased when I say this, but it feels to me, Sherry, that the research with regard to ALS is something that feels slow to develop. Welcome back, Alex.
A few technical issues on my end. Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. And so I guess when we say, you're sponsoring a researcher, what is there anything that we can maybe point to say this was kind of the result of that?
So there have been, I'm not sure how much you know about the science with ALS and what they've been researching. But one of our last scientists that we funded, he was doing a very specific study on C9orf7, I believe is the gene. And that gene has a lot to do with inherited ALS. And so I'm not sure if that's what your father-in-law passed of, but my brother had sporadic ALS. It didn't run in our family. But the thing is, when they find something specific with the gene, in cases that are easier to track because they are inherited, it makes it easier to find out more about the disease in general. So Phil was actually published in a international journal for his findings. So this is Dr. Philip McGoldrick. I shouldn't just be like Phil. His name is Dr. Philip McGoldrick, and he is still at the lab at the University of Toronto. So yeah, this is one of the things that he has found. But even more so, I mean, I could talk about the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge and how, so the Ice Bucket Challenge was in 2014. And in 2014 in Canada, there were maybe 30 clinical trials for ALS at the time. And now, because of all the money that has come through because of the Ice Bucket Challenge, there are over 300 in Canada.
Wow.
So even right there, like that's an amazing thing that we can point to, that this is where, when the money is going to research, this is what's happening. It was too late for my brother, too late for your father-in-law, but this is why we're doing it, so that one day it won't be too late for, the next person, right?
That's right. That's it right there. The amount, I just sometimes stop and it gives me chills when you stop and think that someday there's going to be a family that says we beat it.
That's right.
And that's, I'm going to start crying here in a second. But it's interesting that you mentioned that specific research, because that is exactly what happened to my father-in-law. It was a hereditary ALS, and so his sister actually, when he passed, she was just starting to get it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's and then anyway, it's done a number on our family, and of course now there's the other aspect of it too. The research is now, when that familial link, then everybody can kind of chip in, and
right.
So my sister-in-law has been going to Miami and doing tests and things like that, just to kind of help out a little bit as well, right? Anyway, so Alex, maybe I'll throw this to you. We've talked a lot about, kind of where the money goes and what the money does, but how do you get that money? What are the things that ALS Double Play does throughout the year and maybe talk about how anybody in Toronto in the area can get involved in those as well.
Absolutely. Well, firstly, you can go to our website, alsdoubleplay.com. It has a list of events on the website, upcoming events. We actually have our annual walk coming up on June 4th in Markham. So the walk was our first big event, and we've been missing it obviously for a couple of years because of COVID, and so we're so grateful to have it back. But we do all kinds of things. So we actually just had a fantastic volleyball competition at the end of last month. A lot of fun, incredibly competitive.
Volleyballers are so competitive. And actually, we started volleyball because my brother, his first symptoms showed up playing volleyball. So he used to play indoor beach volleyball, and he started missing plays that he would normally make. And at the time, because he was playing indoor beach, he didn't realize he was actually dragging his foot. Because he was dragging it in the sand, he didn't notice. And it wasn't until a few months later when he started limping, and he just felt like he couldn't straighten out his legs. And so that's when the testing began. But because of it, we do have a volleyball tournament every year.
And then in July, Sherry will be able to tell me the specific date. We have
July 21st.
21st, we have a golf tournament at Angus Glen in Markham. So we're super excited about that. Last year was our first year doing the tournament, so this year is going to be our second year doing it. And if anybody's interested and wants to sign up, registration's open. And then in the fall, we have yoga at a winery. So the winery is just north of Stouffville. And we had so we've done yoga for a few years, but we wanted to try something different, try something interesting. So we have outdoor yoga, just as the sun is setting, with it surrounded by grapes and vines.
Yeah,
and it's absolutely incredible.
And you get a glass of wine after the yoga. I mean, that's key.
That's right. You got to do the yoga first, right?
That's right. Yoga first, and then the wine.
Now, my wife's grandmother actually lives up in Stouffville, so maybe we'll be able to get there by then. And I would love to be able to get in that. I don't do yoga. I don't do really any. I don't do volleyball. I certainly don't golf. But
I don't do yoga either, so I embarrass myself. Every year.
The only thing I keep telling myself when I do it is that everybody else is looking down too, so it's fine.
And you know what, too? It's very. It's all about you and what you're experiencing. Nobody's looking at anyone else, really. And actually, this particular yoga event is all about de-stress and relaxation. So it's very, very gentle. And in fact, the last year when we did it, I had a hard time because I'm like, this is too easy. I'm too relaxed. What is happening?
That's a sign that you need to relax more in general when you're not sure what's going on there.
There doesn't have an ostrich. That was really hard to do.
Now we do have Steve, who normally participates here as well, but he's at home. He has no voice, and of course, Jays from the Couch listeners may or may not appreciate that. I'll leave that up to them, but he did mention that we actually are running a fantasy baseball league this year, and we have decided that for first, second, and third place, there'll be, first and second in each division, there will be a donation made as well in their name as part of the winning that. And then he wanted to thank both of you for sharing your experiences. He wanted to know how you choose the fundraising projects at ALS Double Play.
Oh, I don't know, Al. How do we do it?
Brainstorming?
It's whatever really crazy idea we come up with that we can make sure that we have fun and probably that we can eat.
Yeah, food is good. Food is important.
I mean, we should mention that we have in the past also had a team of people out at the Jays game. We did it like maybe for 3 summers. We were up in the 200s. We even got on TV once. when we had the Josh Donaldson Make It Rain banner.
Yeah.
It said ALS Double Play says to make it rain or something like that, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice,
So-
nice. And he wanted one more thing, that his grandfather and former business partner, thank you for working to honor their memories, as along with Chris's as well.
Aw, thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
So now might be a good time let's actually talk about some Blue Jays here. And I'm going to throw it over to Karen because she's been waiting ever so patiently because she loves talking about her Blue Jays. So Karen, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Shaun. So first of all, to both of you, thank you again for joining us. And great to hear about this wonderful, important work that you're doing. So yes, let's all keep going, keep doing what we can to get the word out there and support this wonderful work. So switching gears just a little bit, let's talk a little bit about the Toronto Blue Jays. So I know I myself am a longtime fan, and I gather that both of you ladies are as well. So I wanted to ask each of you individually, whoever wants to go first, talk to me a little bit about your personal fandom. So what stands out for you? How long have you been a fan? Do you have an earliest memory? Do you have a favorite memory along the years? What can you tell people that are fans, just to share your own perspective as fans?
Sure. Al, do you want to go first, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, one of my favorite memories is my first ever Blue Jays game. So I just moved to Canada. I think we had landed a couple of days earlier, and I went to my first game. So we were still in disarray, living at the mother-in-law's, trying to find a place to live. When I say I just moved from Amsterdam, so fairly lengthy move. But yeah, I desperately wanted to go to a game. So we had tickets in the 100s. I remember we were kind of behind the visitors' dugout, just a little bit out past that near first base. And I fell in love with the game right there and then. And they didn't win. I remember that much. We lost. I think we were playing Cleveland and we lost, but I didn't care. I just fell in love with the feel of the game, the movement of the game, the noise of the game. And I went to probably another 3 or 4 games before the end of that season, just because I couldn't get enough of it. And I think by the time the season finished, I was already talking to my partner about going to spring training, which is something he had never done before. So he was pretty excited about that. It was him that got me into baseball. I've always been a huge sports fan. Moving over here, I'm like, what do I watch? You know, there's no soccer, there's no rugby. What do I watch? He's like, baseball. I'm gonna get you to watch baseball, and boy, was he right.
That's great.
And so I've been a huge fan ever since. In fact, I went to my first spring training, I think it was 2009, and with Sherry. And it was the most fun.
We had so much fun. We went to so many games.
We did.
And we actually, Alex and I also went to see them in St. Louis.
We did.
Yeah.
Right.
She was just like, I've got these air miles to burn. You want to go find them wherever they are? I was like, yes, let's do it. Oh, that was so much fun. And being like, wearing our Blue Jays blue in that sea of red. Oh my goodness, yes.
So
we were heckled a little bit, right?
Yeah, we were. And we won, so it was awesome.
Were you in attendance when Chris Coughlin jumped over Yadier Molina?
It was before that. It was back in 2011.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So I grew up with the Blue Jays. My parents were huge fans, and I remember, earliest memories is falling asleep in the car and waking up to the sound of the radio and the game playing, and Dad sitting outside of the car listening to the game, waiting for us to wake up. So we loved the Jays, grew up with the Jays. They took us to the game. We played baseball. But I remember also a time, now I have a dog and his name is not named after a Blue Jays player. But I was at the game with my brother when I learned of Ken Griffey Jr. And I just watching him, and we were both like, this guy's amazing, you know. And so when I did get Griffey, Mosby was, you know, in contention for a name also, but he didn't really look like a Mosby. He looked,
No, you didn't.
he's so much more Griffey, right, Alex?
Totally.
I love that story.
I feel really bad to be such a huge Jays fan, and yet my dog's not named after a Jay.
You can't have it all, I guess.
No.
Ken Griffey Jr. is one of the all-time greats, so
That's right.
can't really argue with that. So another thought that I had, so bringing us to modern day Blue Jays. So it was an interesting offseason after last year missing the playoffs by one game. And of course, the front office made a lot of moves, lost some players, but acquired some other players, all kinds of hype, all kinds of expectations. So each of you, what were your own expectations going into this season, and looking at where they are now in the standings, what has been working and what hasn't been working? What are your expectations for them as of right now?
I think it's pretty obvious what isn't working right now, and that's the bats. And I really could not have, if you'd have told me before the season started that we were struggling to score runs, that we were leaving men on base game after game, I wouldn't have believed it. Not with the guys that we have in the lineup. It just would have felt like complete fantasy to me. On the other side of things, I mean, I think the pitching, once we got over the little bump at the beginning of the season, the pitching's been pretty decent. You know, I never had any doubts about Manoah. I knew he was going to be a star. I think that was obvious from last season. But, you know, Gausman seems to be settling in pretty well in a new league. We know what Berrios is capable of from last season. And, you know, I think Rio's probably the biggest question mark right now. But, you know, we also know what he's capable of, and I'm hoping that he can settle back in, because we ain't going to win games without pitching, especially when we're not hitting so great. I do think that it will turn around. There is too much talent in this team for them to scrub along like they have been doing for the last month. It's just, you know, I wish they would do it sooner rather than later.
Yes, don't
Yeah.
we all?
I feel the same. Like we started off really well, and the team felt like they were moving and gelling together, and then they just like hit this roadblock, and it's kind of startling in ways. And I think what made me nervous too was all the pressure that seemed to come from the outside about how this was the year, you know, look at what they're going to make it this year. This is it. It's going to be the year. And it just, that kind of makes me nervous. And I internalize it too, also for Jordan, because he's a Markham boy. And he actually went to my brother's high school.
Oh, well.
Not at the same time, but hey, he grew up in our hometown. So.
Yes, I mean, personally, I'm very, very active on Twitter, and I follow lots of different people, and it's just so interesting, the different viewpoints right now, that there are some people that just think the sky is falling, and the offense, like maybe this is who they are, and after all the expectations, maybe they were overhyped and they just don't have it in them to get any better. Like, go away.
I don't think so. These people are like, it's like bandwagon fans that are like, when it's good, they're like all about it. And then once things start to fall apart or they're having trouble, they just back off, right? And they start talking smack about our team.
Like every loss, it's just blown right out of proportion. And personally, I mean, both the rotation and the offense were expected to be major strengths, and the rotation pretty much has lived up to the expectations. And knock on wood, assuming everybody stays healthy, personally, I don't see them regressing very much. I do think that the offense is going to be much better than what we've seen over the last few weeks. Again, I mean, these aren't raw rookies. Most of these guys have been in MLB for at least a few years. You've got some younger veteran players and some more established veteran players, and I really think they'll get back on track. So
yeah, I can't believe that the quality that they have, and we've all seen what they can do. That just doesn't go away. And I know that they're probably all in their heads a little bit too much right now.
yeah,
And I'm hoping that they're getting the help that they need to get out of their heads.
yeah,
Because that's really important. I do want to point to a bright spot in the hitting, and that's Espinal. Because
he's been a really good surprise, I think.
I was really thrilled that he got an opportunity this year, because I saw so much possibility in him last season, and he just repaid that faith so much. He's hitting second tonight. I don't know if you guys saw the lineup, which is wonderful. But yeah, he just brings something different to the game, I think, because I don't think he doesn't carry that weight of expectation, whether it's that weight of a World Series winner or that weight of a famous father, or everything else that comes with it. Even the weight of 2 silver sluggers, there's that push that I have to be just as good this season, and Espinal doesn't carry that with him, and I think it shows in the way that he's been playing so far this season.
Yeah, I actually wrote about Espinal recently. I talked about the possibility of him making the All-Star team. So I think he's been playing well enough to do it. Yeah. I don't know whether he will or will not be recognized for a few different reasons, but one way or another, I think his play has been good enough. And he's definitely been a bright spot.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So we're just about out of time here, and I just wanted to throw one more question up here. Steve has a good one as well at home here, and just wondering if the Blue Jays organization has ever reached out to assist with fundraising or events, or if you've maybe you've tried working with them to see if there's something that can be hashed out.
We haven't really reached out, but we did have a friend that worked there who helped us by donating a bunch of awesome items that we have used in our silent auctions, both at the golf tournament and also at our walk. So nice. We haven't though really actually tried to engage them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the challenge with trying to get the club to support a charity like this is that because they have their own charitable organization, that's really where their energy is focused. And that's not to say that possibility is not there, but I think it just makes it a little bit more challenging because they kind of have their own charity to support.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Jays Care is a wonderful foundation.
We
take my money on a regular basis.
We do take our money regularly.
Yeah, you and me both. Okay, so just before we head out of here, Sherry, maybe just let everybody know how they can stay up to date with ALS Double Play, and again, register for the golf tournament or other events that you have coming up.
Sure. We have all of our events on our website at alsdoubleplay.com, and the double play does come from baseball. So there's that connection to Lou Gehrig, and also the fact that we only do 2 things. We support research and raise awareness. So now you won't forget the double play part. And we're also on Twitter, same at ALS Double Play, and Instagram and Facebook. So on Facebook, we do have links to our events coming up as well. And if you want to participate in our walk, we're happy to have you out there. It's going to be so great this year. It's our 5th year, and we're making it big. We're at a location called the Pride of Canada Carousel. So it is a carousel, and in every piece of the carousel is some kind of Canadiana. So, and it's all made from reclaimed pieces. So it's kind of cool. So the website for the walk is bit.ly/22walkals. And I mean, if you find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or our website, you will find a way to register for any of our events coming up.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
You can register really easily just going through the website and flicking through the events. You can there'll be links straight to the registration site. And if you're not able to attend, but you still want to contribute, you can donate through the website as well.
Perfect. So Sherry and Alex, thank you so much for coming on today and talking about the awesome work that you do. And I think I would, if we're open to it, maybe we'll discuss how we can work together in the future, so that there will be one day that family that says we beat it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That'd
Thanks
be
for
great.
having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's been,
Thank you.
Such a great experience being on here.
That's great.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah.
All right. So, Karen, we are just about out of time here. This might be one of my favorite episodes in a very long time. Thank you for joining me as well, of course. Before we sign off and all of that fun stuff, let everybody know how they can follow you, and maybe give us a little tease for Sunny Side of the Dome at Thursday.
Right. Yeah. So I'm on Twitter, as I mentioned before, at Karen Sutar1. So exactly as it's spelled like there. And I spend, I think, too much time on Twitter listening to people with different viewpoints, which is great. A lot of negativity lately. But yeah, so Sunny Side of the Dome on Thursday. I mean, they just came off a pretty good homestand with a 4-2 record. And hopefully they're going to continue surging over the next couple of days in St. Louis, and we can talk about some more positive things.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would.
Such for a change of pace.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so again, thank you to Karen for joining me, and I want to give a special thank you to Sherry and Alex as well at ALS Double Play. Great people doing great work, and I appreciate them taking the time to join us as well. So for all of our listeners, whether you're watching on YouTube, or Facebook or Twitter, thank you for tuning in. Remember, we go Monday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And of course, if you're not available to do the audio thing or the video thing, you can do the audio thing anytime you like. You just go to any of your favorite podcast applications, as they're called, and subscribe to Jays from the Couch, and you get all of our episodes downloaded, all 297 of them, all downloaded into your ears. So for Karen, for Sherry, and for Alex, this is Shaun Doyle. You can follow me on Twitter at JFtC. Hoping life gives you a juicy fastball down the middle and you don't miss it. Take care, everybody.